Hey there, everyone. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. It's a Monday, man, and a slow starting Monday. I got to tell you, don't feel like working. Have not felt like working the entire day. Have not done a whole lot of work, and boy, do I got a lot of work to do. Speaking of which, we will kick it in for a second hour here at the Voice of College Football with a little incentive because I do have a 5 o'clock meeting that is rather important and pretty much going to be something that's on tap for, it appears to be every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, but I can be persuaded. But otherwise, we'll just be here for an hour with you here at the Voice of College Football. Welcome to another week. Hope you had a great Easter weekend. I had a good Easter weekend. Absolutely. Had a great time. Friday night, Saturday night, big plans, Sunday. Yeah, I had a great time all weekend with friends. So do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Looking for a way to get some juice to our monitor here. That looks like that did it. Okay. Thought it would be an interesting topic today to look at with all the hoopla and all the conversation and everything we've talked about and others concerning college football and the young man that left Tennessee to go to UCLA, Nico Iamaleava. That been so many conversations because it's kind of a landmark situation, at least it is at this point, that I thought this guy was a 5-star coming out of high school, highly recruited, highly sought after. And of course, Tennessee bent over backwards to get him on campus. And then he pretty much backed him over the other way to get off campus. That he's caused a lot of problems and a lot of trouble. And has he really been worth it? Of course not, but highly touted coming out of high school. And I was looking at recruiting rankings and thinking, how does he size up now that that's the 2023 class? So those guys have played 2 years of college football. How do they stack up, these quarterbacks from 2023? Is Nico really the second best quarterback in that class? As is the case, the results may surprise us in terms of who has turned out thus far from that class. George, good to see you, man. Love me some rankings. Tukey G here as well. Edward, good to see you. Rowan as well. TF, been a while since we've seen some traveling fools stopping by the Voice of College Football. TF, good to see you, man. Yo, 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 yo. So we will concentrate on looking at Nico versus the field in 2023. Of course, now that he's settled in at UCLA, you can expect at some point some Big Ten quarterback rankings. Where would Nico rank? All right. Anything else going on? Of course, it's the transfer portal, and we've got our show On the Move with Leanne Herring here each and every week. We are still determining when we're going to have that show. It was last Friday night. Last week, well, we are looking for a number of options this week. And, of course, it's the NFL draft later this week on a Thursday night. So yeah, all sorts of stuff to get in this week because we're still looking for a time slot for our late night call-in show. When are we going to do that? And yeah, NFL draft Thursday, Friday, Saturday. How invested do we get into the NFL draft? I may have to go back and see what I've done in the past and see what's been successful and what has been well received because, man, I could just ignore the NFL draft. That's a possibility. That's what I think I've done the last couple of years. Or we could take a deep dive into the NFL draft this weekend. We may do that. I don't know. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. All right. Appreciate everyone being here. Again, a second hour is available. That's the option. We could keep going if you would like. Otherwise, I'm going to take in a boring meeting at 5 p.m. Eastern time. But that's fine. It's needed at some point. I'm going to have to watch the replay anyway. even if I don't get it live. But either way is certainly fine. Please like and subscribe right here, the Voice of College Football. And again, the Amazon links in the description section of all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. And I'm going to, yes, make it a bit easier for most of you to shop on the Amazon link. We'll do that and release that very, 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 very soon. The call-in lines, they're available in the chat. If you don't want to talk about Nico, if you want to talk about something else, please do. Please do. Hi, Karen. Hi, Mike3883. Good to see you. Please hit the like button, everyone. Pack Daddy is here, and we've said hi to just about everyone else who has said hi to us. All right, so Nico Imalieva and the rest of the 2023 quarterback class. How did this baby pan out, and who has lived up to expectations, and who is an utter disappointment, and did these rankings play out? Well, it's still obviously too early to tell, but we're going to make an early call here because some of these guys have played for 2 years, Nico and others for a season, and others are still waiting to get on the field. You got Arch Manning at the top of the board. And even though he hasn't played, I know he's played in sub packages as a runner, and he's thrown the ball a little bit against some bad teams. College football pundits are fully confident that Arch Manning is going to be a top quarterback in college football. And of course, he's going to be the Texas starter this year. Nico, of course, yeah, you're going to have to live with the vocal inconsistencies today, everyone. It's been a bit rough for 4 or 5 days. My apologies. But Nico, of course, signed with Tennessee, played the bowl game in 2023 against Iowa, and showed a spark. And then, of course, had the season that he had, which was decent. Decent. So now Nico on to UCLA. UCLA, of course, signed a quarterback, highly coveted Dante Moore, who's off to Oregon. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the Ducks this year. So we know the most about Nico out of those top 3. Dante Moore had a rough go at UCLA as a starter, a few games his freshman season, rode the bench the rest of the way. And in 2024, again, this is going to be his breakout season for Oregon, expected starter in 2025. Jackson Arnold. So we're looking at 4 quarterbacks right now, and 3 of them have already transferred. Jackson Arnold, saddest first season behind Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma. Played the bowl game, threw for a ton of yardage. They lost the game to Arizona, threw some interceptions. 3 of them, 4 touchdowns against Arizona in the Alamo Bowl. And then Jackson Arnold, of course, was the heir apparent in 2024. Got off to a rough start and got benched against Tennessee. Sat for about a month, came back, played a little bit better. But Jackson Arnold is off to Auburn as Hugh Freeze starting quarterback this fall. Malachi Nelson has to be one of the biggest misses in a rating or a ranking of quarterbacks in recent memory. Malachi Nelson signed at USC, never had a chance of starting there. Of course, they had Caleb Williams, and they transitioned to Miller Moss this past season. But Malachi Nelson transferred to Boise State. You would think he would start there. He could not even start there. Where is Malachi Nelson? He is on a 3rd team. UTEP. Malachi Nelson has fallen all the way as the 5th rated quarterback in the class to UTEP. So, hey, if he finishes out his career and he's a collegiate quarterback at UTEP, there is nothing to be ashamed of there. But just, it's not USC and it's not 5-star material. We had another big signing, of course, with Jaden Rashada and that whole turmoil with the the Florida proposal, contract, would-be contract not fulfilled, and still some type of suit filed between Rashada's camp and the University of Florida that's still ongoing. Jaden Rashada at Arizona State. Well, that's where he originally signed, because he did not sign at Florida because of the botched contract situation. Jaden Rashada has entered the well, he originally signed at Arizona State. He went to Georgia. He's in the transfer portal, and I still believe Jaden Rashada is without a football team. Aiden Childs has not been overwhelming, but compared to the rest of these guys, at least he's the starting quarterback at Michigan State. Had a decent season. They won 5 games. He showed some promise. He's got a great quarterback developer as a head coach in Jonathan Smith. So Aiden Childs at number 7. Austin Mack has a shot to be Alabama's starting quarterback this year. Left Washington to follow his head coach, Kalen DeBoer, from Seattle to Tuscaloosa. So Austin Mack is battling Ty Simpson and Keelan Russell for the starting job at Alabama. Avery Johnson is the starting quarterback at Kansas State. Started the bowl game as a freshman, played pretty well, won the game, and then turned around and started for Kansas State this past season. Nice season. K-State went 9-4. So Avery Johnson, one of the better products from this class thus far. Then we've got Chris Vizina, who is still looking to step on the field at Clemson and will not this year, with Cade Klubnik, of course, being the starting quarterback at Clemson. So Chris Vizina has waited patiently. He's now entering a 3rd year of sitting. So we'll not know about him for quite some time, barring injury. Lincoln Kienholz has a long shot of being the starting quarterback at Ohio State this year, but that does not appear to be in the cards with Julian Sayin there and outplaying him. So the 11th rated quarterback in the class, Lincoln Kienholz, Ohio State, probably going to be a 3rd season of him not starting. Eli Holstein, I believe, is still at Pitt after transferring from Alabama. He played for Pitt, I don't want to say sparingly, because he played a couple starts. I should probably look up the numbers on Eli Holstein. Austin Novosad, I don't know if he's still at Oregon. Kenny Minchie, I'm sorry, at Notre Dame is most likely going to be the backup quarterback to CJ Carr, with the other quarterback, Steve Angeli, transferring from Notre Dame. Ricky Collins, committed to Purdue initially, signed at LSU. Now he's going to be the starting quarterback at Syracuse and taking over for Kyle McCord this fall. Dylan Lonergan, Alabama. He's no longer there, I do not believe. Yeah, he's at Boston College. Okay, we've got another after Malachi Singleton, Arkansas. Where did I just see Malachi Singleton left to? Yeah, Purdue. So Malachi Singleton will probably be the starting quarterback this season at Purdue, but that's still a battle. And then here at the 18th position was Sam Levitt of Michigan State, who was playing and starting for a college football playoff team that won the Big 12 last year in Arizona State. So he's a success story out of this class. Sam Levitt, who originally signed at Michigan State. J.J. Cole, Iowa State, certainly not the starting quarterback there. I believe he's still the backup. No, he's at App State. And then I believe we got a call coming in, so we'll stop our list with, well, we got a pretty good run of quarterbacks actually here. I was expecting to see another name in here. We'll get to it in just a second. Probably the most successful quarterback in the class we have yet to get to. But finishing off at the top 20, we've got Marcel Reed of Texas A&M, who shared some time during the bowl game for Texas A&M during the end of his freshman season in 2023. Was not the starter in 24. That was Connor Wigman, but Marcel Reed came in, lit a fire under his teammates against LSU, led a big comeback, and he finished out as the starting quarterback in 2024, and therefore that has propelled him into the starting role here in 2025 with Connor Wigman, of course, moving on to Houston and transferring. So let me count out these first 20 quarterbacks before we take some calls, because we basically have one. Let me check on Austin Novosad. He's still at Oregon. Okay, 2. Kenny Minchie, 3. Lincoln Keenholz, 5. Chris Vizina, 6. Avery Johnson, 7. Arch Manning, 8. Only 8 of the 20 quarterbacks. The top 20 quarterbacks in the 2023 class, out of the top 20, only 8 are at the same school. That's where we are in college football. All right. Looks like we got our buddy Will stopping by. Here's
wow, that's
Will, what's going on, man?
Class.
I'm sorry, what's that, Will?
Wow, that's not a great quarterback class.
No, it's not a great quarterback class. And it just gave me the idea with all this Nico business. I thought, okay, let's see how this class turned out. Obviously, the careers are far from over, but we're going into a third season, so we got a pretty good read on most of these guys. Anything stand out from the first 20 guys?
Where's Brock Glenn? I'm just wondering. Can you look at him?
Yeah, he was coming up there at like 21. And I was looking for Lenoris Sellers, too.
Oh.
There's Brock Glenn at 21.
See, he's not at Florida State still, is he?
Brock Glenn. Yeah, who transferred to Mississippi State? Why am I losing the name? It wasn't Brock Glenn. Brock Glenn's still there.
He's still there.
Who was the other one that?
Cronin something?
Yeah, T. Rodemaker. He transferred to Mississippi State. Let's double check on Glenn. Yeah, he's still at FSU. Now, Pierce Clarkson at number 25, originally at Louisville, he's most likely going to start for Ole Miss this year.
Okay. St. John Bosco guy.
I thought I was going to see Lenoris Sellers in this class.
Is he farther down, maybe?
Did I miss? I didn't miss him.
You didn't miss him. I've been keeping track of it.
Okay. Any of these guys mean anything? No. Emory Williams, probably the backup at Miami this year. Lenoris Sellers, 34th. There he is. He might be the best quarterback in the class.
Yeah, he's played the best in the class.
Oh, I made a mistake. Sorry, Will. I was thinking
he's
Austin Simmons when I said Pierce Clarkson. Pierce Clarkson did transfer to Ole Miss from Louisville, but he's not the starting quarterback. Austin Simmons is the guy that filled in for Jackson Dart against Georgia for the first drive of the game and led Ole Miss to a touchdown, and he's going to be the starter for Ole Miss this year, Austin Simmons.
Okay.
Yeah, Lenoris Sellers might be the best quarterback in the class to date. We'll see, of course, Arch Manning.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anybody else is going to show up that did anything.
Watson played a little bit for the Hokies. Calandria at Virginia. Where did he go?
Yeah, so he was, part-time starting quarterback here for a couple of years. Anthony Calandria went to UNLV. That's right. I like Anthony Calandria. And I don't see anything else.
But if you're Tennessee, who do you think you're taking out of the portal? Anyone? Would you take Aguilar?
Didn't Ryan Brown go to, or is he still at Purdue? He started a couple games last year. I guess he's still there. What was that, Will?
Who would you take at Tennessee now? Like, would you stick with what you have, or would you go for Aguilar or Stephen Jelly?
Tennessee. That's a great question. I think Aguilar's a little bit more mobile, or maybe a lot more mobile. But that's a bit of a toss-up.
Mm-hmm. I know Steve visited Syracuse, but I don't know if he. I guess that would be him versus Ricky Collins.
Yes. What do you think of Angeli?
I mean, I think he's good, but like, he's not a quarterback that can, on the final drive, rely on to win you a game. Like, that's what I want as a college football starting quarterback. Someone that, if you know he has the ball in his hands with 2 minutes left at the 20-yard line, he can get you a touchdown. And I just don't feel like Angeli's that good. And I'm thinking Kenny or CJ will have a better. They have the higher ceiling, and I feel like that's what you have. If you want to win a college football national championship, you need a quarterback with a higher ceiling than what Stephen Jelly has.
Is CJ probably going to win that job?
I think Kenny has a chance because he's a little more mobile, but I think CJ Carr, like, he makes those throws there that you're like, wow. Like that. That's a super impressive thing.
It seemed like most people thought Angeli was going to be the starter this year right after the national championship game. When the season ended, that he was going to take over.
I mean, I never really thought Steve would win the job.
Okay.
But I know, like, it was more like national people were saying that they think that Steve Jelly would start. But I didn't think. I think that it would be CJ Carr. But, I mean, it's not. I mean, Steve Jelly would be the safer pick for Miami, but hopefully CJ Carr can develop and get Notre Dame to be a national championship caliber offense, which they weren't quite with Riley Leonard.
Did you happen to catch Riley Leonard's sit down with John Gruden?
I've been wanting to get to that.
I didn't see it either. I did see the clip where Gruden has him go through. He makes him kind of comment about Duke captain, Notre Dame captain, rip this off like a captain. Give me, and he reads off some play that's like 18 words long and then has him do a snap count and has him do it with 14 different types of inflections in his voice to do to draw the defense offsides. It was pretty.
I love Gruden on Monday Night Football.
I did too, and what I'm enjoying now is I get these clips of Gruden where he comes in with these. It must be some shtick where he's got to deal with some kind of product gear company or something where he hauls in these boxes from college football teams and then starts pulling out a bunch of memorabilia. I don't know if you've seen these clips. It's pretty funny.
Do you think that Nico can turn it? I mean, the thing with Nico is he had that great second half against Alabama, and they're like, okay, this is the guy that everyone hyped him up to be. But he hasn't been great. I mean, I feel like he I wouldn't take Steve and Nico and Jelly and Nico. I would say they're about the same right now.
Well, by looking at Nico's stats, his stats are one thing, and then his game log is something completely different. I saw a stat where he only threw for 200 yards, I think, against two teams in the SEC. But let's see if these games were really that.
The problem with Nico was his O-line didn't help him. But I'll give him that.
All right, they destroyed NC State 51
Mhm.
to 10. He did throw 2 picks. I think he actually threw a pick 6 in that game. That was North Carolina State's touchdown, I think. Who cares? Kent State, Oklahoma. That was one of the most boring football games I saw
Yeah.
last year. Um, it was only like 16 to 3 or 13 to 3 in the first half, but you just knew the game was over because Oklahoma's offense
Oklahoma's offense was so bad.
so bad. So that's a workmanlike effort, 13 to 21, buck 94 touchdown, no picks against a really good defense. So that's not terrible. At Arkansas, of course, they lost that game. They only scored 14
Were
points.
they Arkansas's only SEC win? No, they won another one at least.
Uh, yeah, Arkansas went 6-6,
So they had to win another one.
and they did win another one. I'll come up with it. Did they beat Auburn?
Okay, probably.
Um, yeah, or did Arkansas? Arkansas actually went 3-5 in the SEC
Oh,
because they
okay.
lost to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, they did. Okay.
So they won 3 games in the SEC. Mississippi State is a candidate.
It was the Mississippi State, Auburn, Tennessee would make the most sense.
Yeah, I think that was something like that. Then you got Nico against Florida. Of course, they were a big favorite in that game. That's before we knew Florida had a pulse, and I guess he played okay, threw a pick. Not a whole lot counted upon out of Nico in these games. There, you mentioned the Alabama game.
Mhm.
I don't remember anything about the game. I don't think I watched any of that game. I don't know why. I don't know who else was playing, but don't remember much about that game.
I didn't remember he had some throws in the second half that put the game away for him.
The Kentucky game's a nice game statistically.
But Kentucky's not anything special.
That's probably his best game. Yes, that is his best game. No picks, a touchdown, 292, 73%. Mississippi State didn't have to do a whole lot against a bad team, only threw 13 passes. I saw them play Georgia. They were dominated in that game. He didn't throw a pick in 33 attempts. I'll give him that. The Vanderbilt game, 257, 4 touchdowns. It's not an awful season.
Mm-hmm. But you should not be. I mean, I'm blaming more on his dad and his agent than him.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. I do too.
He's just a young guy, but it's unfortunate to see something like that happen.
I came on here and jumped all over him for about 90 seconds, and then it kind of sank in that I quickly turned on his dad. Yeah, you're typically going to be influenced by, and then he's got this agent as well. So he did land at UCLA and apparently making $1.75 million. So hopefully he finds something in UCLA. Hopefully, wouldn't mind seeing UCLA
Go 8-7-5.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing them do something. I think the next thing we do with Nico is we line him up against the rest of the Big Ten and see where we think he ranks there. So,
do we want to do that now, or is that going to be a video for you?
Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. Do you have anything else for us, Will? Would love to keep talking to you, but we do have a couple people on the line here.
I won't hold up the line then, but nice to check in, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for checking in, Will. Good to see you, man. Our buddy Will ND, and there we see Nico's line. 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. Statistically, it's not a bad season, but if you watch the guy play, he's nowhere close to the upper echelon of quarterbacks in college football, and he may be missing Josh Heupel about halfway through next season. We shall see. All right, welcome into the Voice of College Football. We got our guy Adam stopping by.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I just had a few questions for you, a few thoughts. I'd like to get your opinion. First, as far as Steve Angeli goes, high school, Bergen Catholic High School in New Jersey, as did Jared Guarantano, Tennessee. Bergen Catholic is a powerhouse in New Jersey, but what I can tell you is that the players that they produce, aside from Brian Cushing, are typically very good, but not great. And Angeli follows in that kind of pedigree where he's not going to make a lot of mistakes, but he's not going to be a game breaker for you. And I think that that's the problem with a lot of those Bergen Catholic quarterbacks, and that's why I think he's transferring. Um, but the question I had for you is, let's assume that you are a head coach. You're a very smart guy, and you have persuasive abilities. Part of getting people not to transfer or go into the portal is making a pitch to them and getting them to buy into the culture. So, what would you say if you were Tennessee or if you were another school to get people to buy into the culture and not go into the portal? What would your pitch be?
Well, before you try to make a pitch to keep people there, I think you need to build a culture. And as you were framing that question, Adam, the culture and the program that comes to mind, because next to nobody is transferring out of Clemson. So I think what they've done, Dabo Sweeney in particular, is number one, if you are trying to sell your culture when people are walking out the door, that's not the time to start. Now, certainly maybe you can save a player here or a player there and save a few, but that's not the time to start. And it's not even the time to start earlier than that. I think it starts with identifying what you want your culture to be. What does that mean? What type of standards do you want to raise and hold these players to? And then you got to go and look for those. You're obviously looking for the best, most talented football players you can find that match a certain culture. So I think Dabo Sweeney is very effective in finding the type of high school players that he wants that are going to fit the culture. And then once you get them into the program, I think people tend to respect. They may not like it initially, but with all these 4 and 5 star egos that get catered to by a lot of these programs, more so if you tell them the truth, if you're reasonably hard on them and developing them as players, being blunt about what they need to improve on, and being honest with them, being accessible, being honest, and then you have an easier time trying to convince them to stay. But I just, again, looked at Dabo Sweeney as soon as you framed the question as being the guy that has done the best in retaining players.
Right, and I think that Kalen DeBoer has also done that at Alabama, which is good to see. But if I was if I was deciding, should I play for you or should I work for you, when one of your competitors was also recruiting me, and you had 30 seconds to tell me why I should want to work for you, what would you say? And the reason I'm asking you this question is because I'm struggling with that with my own mock trial team at the college I teach at, trying to recruit these kids instead of going to a rival organization. What would be that pitch? Would it be, we're going to make you a better player and a better person? We're going to teach you how to become successful in life? What is the thing that you think resonates with young people these days?
Well, I am trying to draw from my own managerial experience in answering this question. And I'll say that I certainly wasn't the perfect manager. I hope I was effective. And I learned a little bit later in the process that everyone's different. I think I was somewhat successful by treating everyone the same and offering the same type relationship to everyone. And I think that's generally effective. But then you need to be nuanced beyond that. So I think
Smarter.
generally having the same rules for everyone and the same approach, but then being able to identify that this person is a self-starter, a go-getter. They don't care for too much oversight, and they're capable of taking on tasks and projects without it. This person needs that. This person wants to be your buddy. This person wants this. This person wants that. So I think if I erred in any way through most of my career in management, it would be that even though people seem to respond to me telling them, number one, I'm going to be accessible. They seem to like that because a lot of people weren't accessible where I was. Number two, I'm going to tell you the truth. And you're not always going to like it, but at least you know it's the truth. Number three, if you've got some kind of proposal, if you've got some type of idea that you want to see implemented, I'm going to be a sharp, straight shooter to let you know either that's a great idea and I'm going to back that fully and I'm going to go to the table for you, or it's a horrible idea and this is why. I appreciate the idea, but this is why. Or I have no idea, but we're going to get the right people on board to help your idea.
It's so hard to identify people with the intangibles. I struggle with that all the time, but I think that's a good pitch. I mean, my last question for you is, and I've been wanting to ask this question for a while. I don't understand why everyone is so high on Arch Manning. For 2 years, he backed up a mediocre Quinn Ewers, and I think Sarkisian knew what he was doing when he made Arch Manning number 2. He didn't. What has Arch Manning done that makes everyone think he's the second coming? I'm not sold on him. He's going to be a bust. That's my prediction. As will Bryce Underwood, the one who flipped from LSU at the last second for the money, another one with no values. But I think Arch Manning is way overrated, and I don't understand what the factual basis is to conclude that Arch Manning is a star at this juncture. What are your thoughts?
Well, just to conclude my previous statement, I stopped.
Sorry.
No. You did not cut me off. I stopped because it was either going to be stop there or I had a whole other spiel to go into. But we'll stop right there. And that's kind of why I came to an end, because it was going to move into a whole other philosophy of management and other examples. But we'll stop right there. The thing I will say, Adam, is I try not to get into the camp in evaluating these college quarterbacks where once I pick them all apart and determine none of them are really that good, who is good? Meaning, if Quinn Ewers wasn't that good, if Arch Manning, based on your evaluation or your expectation, isn't going to be very good, like who is good right now? Who is good in the college game as a quarterback?
Well, I'll slightly revise what I said. Arch Manning may become a great quarterback, but he has done nothing to warrant that distinction at this point. And I don't understand why people think, it's like Drew Aller. Everybody says Drew Aller is such a great quarterback. I have seen nothing from Drew Aller except poor decision-making under pressure. And when he's under duress, he makes terrible decisions. I don't understand what in people's minds gets them to think that these are great quarterbacks, particularly when they haven't done anything to warrant that. So I think the book is out on Arch Manning. I think the book is out on Drew Aller. And I don't see any quarterback in college football at this point that is NFL ready or NFL worthy. But I just wonder why we crowned Arch Manning like the second coming when he's backing up a mediocre quarterback for 2 years. If he was that good, just like Ty Simpson, if Ty Simpson was that good, he would have beaten out Jalen Milroe. I'm not sure.
To me, Drew Aller and Arch Manning are two completely different situations, because we have we have really nothing of substance on Arch Manning right now. He mopped up in some games, padded his stats against some really bad teams in meaningless situations. He ran the ball. When he did get into the game against good teams, they didn't let him throw the ball. So his career is basically just starting in terms of it being counted upon. Drew Aller, we've got more game tape and we got more stats from Drew Aller than anybody in college football. He's probably the most experienced quarterback in college football at this point. I'm sure there's somebody out there that I am not thinking of, but basically he's as experienced as anybody. So we've got the entire book on Drew Aller.
And Drew Aller against Ohio State did nothing. With 38 seconds left against Notre Dame, he threw that interception. And I'll make a contrast. Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is the sleeper in this draft because Jackson Dart, just like DJ Lagway, has the most important thing that a QB needs to have, the intangible called intelligence. These two have it. And intelligence and processing speed is what gets you to the promised land, not athleticism. That's why they make them take the Wonderlic personality, the Wonderlic intelligence test in the NFL. Dart's got it. Aller does not. And it's the intangibles that people so often forget. Those things you cannot teach. How you perform under pressure, how quickly your brain processes information, your IQ. I hate to say it, but that's what separates NFL from college football. And I know Dart collapsed against Florida, but I'm not going to judge him on one game. I'm going to judge his entire body of work. And what I saw was an intelligent QB who goes through his reads under duress, remains calm. Aller doesn't do it. Arch hasn't proven himself. I think DJ Lagway is your next Heisman winner, but I don't want to take up any more time. Just my takes at this point on this beautiful Monday evening.
All right, Adam. Well, you are welcome to hang on here because I've got nobody behind you, nobody calling at this point. But
I'll ask you this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say here's my quick 10 seconds on Drew Aller. Drew Aller, the first time I ever saw him throw a football was on a Thursday night against Purdue, week 1, when he was a backup for Sean Clifford. And he threw a couple outs to the sideline that were beautiful. And they would throw him into games that season. He'd throw like 4, 5, 6 passes every week, even against good teams. So then anyway, he becomes the starter in 2022. I might be off a year, might be 23. And he put up really good stats, but against Ohio State and Michigan, he was a deer in headlights, did not play well, looked pathetic. Much of that had to do with playing 2 of the best defenses in the country and his offensive weapons not being up to the task. Last year, I thought he was a completely different quarterback. I thought he was largely great most of the season. I thought he was exceptional. I thought he had more confidence. He looked convicted. He looked like a leader. He looked poised and everything. However, as you point out, did not have a good game against Ohio State. And then he did not have, even though they won the games, the first playoff game they played against SMU, he was completely non-existent. He wasn't needed. The defense got a zillion takeaways and scored a ton of points. I don't know that there was a quarterback in a playoff game last year that was completely a ghost. And that's not his fault. It just was a blowout. They didn't need him. So he's handing the ball off all game. Then he played a marginal game against Boise State, played okay. Penn State should have ran away with that game early. They didn't, largely because he made a couple mistakes. And then against Notre Dame, like you say, he did not play a good game against Notre Dame even before that mistake. Penn State should have won that game. They were dominating the first half, and Drew Aller did not play well. And James Franklin had the confidence with the game on the line at the 15-yard line with 40 seconds left in the game to say, Drew Aller, show us who you are, drive the ball downfield, set us up for the game-winning field goal, but one pass and Drew Aller's throwing the ball to no one and blew the game. You're right.
Yeah, I think with Drew Aller, he wasn't good against Ohio State, but there was one thing about that interception against Notre Dame. When he threw the interception, you could see him grab his helmet and be like, oh my God, what did I just do? That to me shows a utter lack of self-awareness and of the intangibles needed. When he's under duress against a good defense, I'm sorry, he's not very good. Now, I'll tell you who was a damn good quarterback, who was much better than Drew Aller and probably won't get drafted, and that's Will Howard. Will Howard was very intelligent, knew that Ohio State offense, and he didn't make mistakes. If you look at that Oregon game, you could tell he studied Oregon. He knew exactly to go where he wanted to with the ball. He knew when pressure was coming. He hit his checkdowns. He went through his progressions. He got the ball out in less than 2.5 seconds. That guy was intelligent. Now, when you combine DJ Lagway's intelligence with his intangibles, that's the guy I see going very, very far. I don't see Drew Aller going far because the things that he needs to fix are not fixable. Okay, it's up here. And it's something that I don't think he has. And I hate to criticize him because, of course, he's a great athlete and great quarterback, but I think Penn State falls short. I think Will Howard was one of the best quarterbacks in the nation last year because he knew how to run an offense and he knew how to go through his progressions and he outsmarted the defenses. And I think DJ Lagway does that this year.
All right, Adam.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you listening to me for probably way too long. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, Adam.
All right. Take care.
You too. The one thing I said to Adam there that I fully believe in is that in evaluating these quarterbacks on Saturdays, maybe some of us watch on Sunday. I don't much anymore, but we watch the quarterbacks on Sunday, then we watch the guys on Saturday, and we think they're no good. And I didn't get to this point with Adam, but in evaluating Quinn Ewers, and I'm not selling Quinn Ewers as a great college quarterback. He was not. He was good. How many were better? That's a fairly short list. It's a fairly short list. All right, everyone. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you being here. If you want a good read for your spring and summer, Disputed National Champions is a great book. Give it a shot. It's about the historical reset of the 1990s in regards to determining a champion in college football. So we slice dice every year during the 1990s, and we take those results, those seasons, and we just don't make it a history book. We put it into the BCS, the 14, the 12 team, and the proposed 14-team college football playoff. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We got our buddy Dan stopping by.
Hey, Mark. How you doing this evening?
I'm good, Dan. What's going on, man?
Well, first of all, happy Easter Monday, because I'm sorry that I didn't post on Saturday and Sunday. Just a funeral on Saturday, and then Sunday I had Easter with family.
Very nice.
Let's talk college football for 1 minute. Actually, a few minutes. You know what's really making me happy, Mark? You probably haven't guessed it, but you know how Nico went to UCLA?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
You know why it really makes me happy, Mark?
I'm waiting.
Well, because he's gonna have to play Ohio State in UCLA plays Ohio State. So my Ohio State Buckeyes will get to play UCLA, and their quarterback will be Nico. So I'm going to be enjoying that. I'll tell you what. You know what? Ohio State's schedule this year, I feel like it's honestly fair. But at the same time, I feel like there could be some blowouts, but there could be some like close games, in my opinion. Now, that's just me.
Okay. I don't know that... what to do with your statement there.
So look.
do
Can you
you
pull
think
up
they're
Ohio State's schedule, please?
I understand. We're pulling up Ohio State's schedule, but I'm just kind of pointing out the cliched, rather obvious statement you just made, Dan. You're basically saying you think there's going to be some blowouts and there's going to be some close games. I would say that if we could pull up anybody's schedule in the history of college football, and we're going to see some blowouts and some close games.
No, I completely agree with that, Mark, and I completely agree. But you know what? With the roster change and the coaching staff change, and I know there's a lot of things that they're going to have to do to really, and with the summer and spring, that's really going to help Ohio State's team get ready and prepared for this season, because that's what spring and summer camp is for, is getting the team ready to go for fall football.
We get the schedule right there, Dan.
So Grambling State and Ohio, both are going to be blowouts. Illinois, that's kind of a 50-50 game in my opinion.
50
Minnesota
game.
Well, I mean, look, they almost took down Alabama last year.
Who almost took down Alabama?
And Texas, that could be a blowout game.
Hang on just a second. Wait a minute. What are we talking about? You're a diehard Ohio State fan, and you're telling me the Illinois game is a 50-50 game?
No, I said the Wisconsin game is a 50-50.
Okay.
Not Illinois.
Either one. Actually, Illinois is a better football team than Wisconsin. So you're saying the Wisconsin game's a 50-50 game. Okay.
Either one. But the Texas game, as far as I'm concerned,
they almost took down Alabama last year.
Wisconsin almost took down Alabama just a little bit.
Okay, you may want to revisit that game. They did not almost take down Alabama. They got blown out of the stadium.
All right.
Keep going, Dan. Anything else?
Back here.
All right. We can't hear from Dan anymore. All right. When the conversation, it's nice to get a squared up box shot here in the middle. Thank you, StreamYard. They keep changing these on us almost every day at this point, but that's an added re-edition. Very nice. Sometimes I just can't take it, folks. I just can't take it. I'm sorry. We're going to look at the Ohio State schedule, and some of the games are going to be blowouts and some of the games are going to be close. Okay. Thank you. And then the Wisconsin game's a 50-50, and they almost beat Alabama last year. I can't do it. All right. Yes, I watched Alabama and Wisconsin. All right, Leanne's in the chat, and we want to let you know that we got our show On the Move coming up this week. When? Don't know exactly when. We're figuring that out, but we do appreciate everyone who stopped by last Friday night for the big show. And so, again, we will see you sometime this week, most likely in prime time for On the Move. And, yeah, we're figuring that out. So subscribe. Hit the bell for the notifications to know when we go live, and you won't miss us this week. And, of course, the transfer portal is heating up, and let's get to that next while we are trying to recover from that call. Okay. I don't know what was going on this week with one David Stone. So this was big news at the end of last week. David Stone, former 5-star defensive lineman at Oklahoma, played in the rotation his first year. It was just his freshman season this past year. So did nothing outstanding, but was not a bust in any way. Certainly was starting to play, and again, in the Oklahoma defensive line rotation. And then the next thing I know, I guess he took himself out of the transfer portal. So he's back at Oklahoma and going to stay put, we think. Let's see who stands out to us. The latest from the portal today, as of an hour ago, Tulane wide receiver Sidney Bonasor is entering the transfer portal. He stands at 6'5", began his career at Utah. Don't have much of a read on him. We've got a Mississippi State offensive tackle in Malik Ellis. He's in the portal. He started 4 games 2 years ago for Mississippi State. Hail State, Florida State offensive lineman TJ Ferguson. We remember when he hit the portal from Alabama to FSU, and now he's back in the portal after starting for a woeful FSU offense last year. So he's one to look out for if your team needs offensive line help. We've got another big school transfer portal edition here. South Carolina offensive tackle Cam Pringle, 6'8", 335, still has 4 years of eligibility. He's in the portal. Miami cornerback Emmanuel Carnley. So he was a big addition from Arizona, was one of the higher ranked cornerbacks in the portal initially. Has not played for Miami, just hung out for spring practice, and now he's back in the portal. Apparently does not like his spot on the depth chart. Here we've got a guy that played 793 snaps at Mercer in 2024, right tackle E.J. Johnson. He's in the portal. We've got a North Dakota State running back in Chamar Brown in the portal, planning a trip to Cal later this week. Won the Jerry Rice Award for the top freshman performance in the FCS. And he's also going to Miami. Who do we have here? Ian Jackson moving from North Carolina. I think we got a little basketball mixed in there. There we go. Elsewhere, Virginia Tech linebacker transfer Jade McDonald. He's got some visits lined up here. Look at this. James Madison, Western Michigan. Okay, Wake Forest. So he's not a major player. Tennessee gets a visit from Louisville linebacker Darius Thomas coming up later this week. And he is the second-rated linebacker in the transfer portal that still is available. Jordan Davis started his career at South Carolina, transferred to South Alabama. Now he's in the portal as a left tackle. And that takes us back. Well, we're still only here in the last 4 hours, although I'm seeing some posts that I remember seeing late last week. Interesting journey that we have followed with the wide receiver Jonte Cook, who started at Texas. Then he traveled up to Washington. You couldn't even really call him a player for Washington. He was barely there. And now he's going to visit Syracuse. So he's still looking for a landing spot. You know, the guy that got left out of this whole Nico deal is, of course, Joey Aguilar at UCLA. So nobody's surprised that he's entered the transfer portal, of course, because he was picked up. Now, this is the other side of this. Here's the other side of this situation right here. We focus on the players leaving the schools, okay? And I get it. It doesn't look good. The players don't seem loyal and they move on to other schools after that was the school that recruited them, signed them, invested in them, built relationships with them, all of that. But also let's keep in mind, number one, not all these players, especially the second and third tier guys, are the ones making the decisions, meaning after the season. And then after spring practice, there are conversations and there are situations where a player thought he had a certain standing on a team and he no longer does. And so now he's in a different spot on the depth chart, and understandably so, he's looking to move on. Here's a more unique situation. Joey Aguilar is the starting quarterback at App State for 2 seasons. He goes to UCLA. He's got a shot to play in the big time, got a shot to play in the Big Ten, got a shot to play in Power Conference football after, again, not 2 amazing seasons, but 2 very productive seasons at App State, although they only went 6-6 this past year. So he shows up at UCLA. He's just completed spring practice there. Supposed to be the starting quarterback for this fall. That's why he transferred. And they have recruited right over him with Nico. So now Joey Aguilar, who thought that he was in a good spot, in a good situation, and doing the right things and practicing with his team and ready to be the starter in 2025, well, UCLA just went over his head on the depth chart. So you got to understand where he's coming from. Does the portal end on Friday? I do not know. I know that's a Google search, Todd. I don't know that for sure. Sounds about right. This is kind of an odd situation. Look at this. Look at this. Because most of the transfers that we see among non-stars, it's a matter of playing time. Most of the time. There's a lot of other factors that go into this, but it's mostly about playing time. Look at this situation. Jaden Ott's one of the best running backs in college football. And he left Cal. Okay. So Jaden Ott leaves. He opens up opportunities for all these other guys as a guy that was going to take all the number 1 snaps, right? And now Jaden Ott leaves, and one of his backups also leaves. This is a guy, Javion Thomas, who had 626 yards rushing, and he's the 5th Cal running back to enter the portal. Like, who's going to play running back for them? Well, obviously, they're going to go get guys. But that just seems so strange that you would have a top talent leave your running back room and you're another running back in the Cal system, and you're not going to stick around and scarf up those carries. We've got Ole Miss defensive tackle Kalo Stone has entered the portal. He's done pretty good work there. 2 seasons, 42 tackles, 5 TFLs, and started against Georgia Tech. There we see him rushing the passer Jaden Daniels 2 years ago. Michigan's picked up a running back, John Volker out of Princeton. Iowa State linebacker Jack Sadowski has entered the portal. He's got 17 starts under his belt. So basically a almost full-time starter, 17 starts in 26 games. So you get a starting linebacker from a good Iowa State team there. All sorts of guys out there. Cincinnati wide receiver Tony Johnson is visiting the U on Thursday and Friday. He led the Bearcats, which was not necessarily a great passing offense, but led them in receiving touchdowns with 6. Started at FAU, goes to Cincinnati, Tony Johnson, and now he's looking to move on from there. All right, I believe we have hit the end of the line for another big show here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you being here again Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, except for the one night that we go late. Don't know when that's going to be. So be looking out for some kind of a vote or something, or maybe we'll just throw it at one of you. Who's got a good late night window for us? Who's going to make the selection this week? And we will determine that. Again, we got to figure out when the late night call-in show is. Todd, thank you for encouraging everyone to hit the like button. So we got to figure out when the late night call-in show is this week. We got to figure out when On the Move is this week. And also we've got the NFL draft on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I've yet to determine how much I'm going to get invested in the NFL draft. But shoot, we may just hang out with you and take in the draft, or maybe do a little post-draft on Thursday, Friday, and maybe Saturday. Who knows? All right, folks, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. The next time you will see me must be Tuesday at 5:30 for the big Iowa show. Or I guess right before that, you will see me right here unless we go late night on Tuesday. So 4 p.m. here on Tuesday, and also the Iowa show at 5:30. Check out all of our shows on this fine Monday. It's crazy how many shows we're up to. Let's look at the big lineup. It now looks like this. For your enjoyment, our USC show, which is usually late night, those guys did it this afternoon. They might still be on. Who knows? Then we've got the Alabama show at 6 p.m. Eastern with Jackson and company. We got Zach Ramelius and the Mizzou show. Iowa primetime. Yes, Josh and Chris. We got Rutgers with Adam and Gabe. We've got LSU at 7. Shoot, you need 4 screens at 7 p.m. Eastern time. The Oklahoma show with Chad and Tyranny. Ohio State primetime live is tonight, as well as Texas, Tennessee, and Auburn. What is that? That's 5 shows at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Goodness. And Florida State at 9. I am merely an afterthought on this network at this point. Edward, later. Good to see you. Todd, good to see everyone. We'll be back here at 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, and we will see you then. Will, thanks for checking out the USC show. Yes, the guys are doing a nice job, and I'll be on there with Matt Zemek on Wednesday night as well.